Thank you so much for joining us today. Very excited to talk about the Cape Wildlife Center. I know it's been a very transitional year for everyone at the Cape Wildlife Center. As we know, earlier last year, the Humane Society did decide they could not continue to support the center. This is where, really, Karen, you stepped in. Talk to me a little bit about your work with the Friends of the Cape Wildlife Center.
When the community heard that the Cape Wildlife Center was closing, it was really a shock situation to most people. A lot of people had contact with the Wildlife Center by bringing an injured animal in, knowing that it was going to be taken care of. And the community said, we're just not going to let this happen. So Elizabeth Brooke and myself and a number of other people from various towns up and down Cape Cod decided that we needed to have a call to arms. So back in November, we held a meeting at the community college, at which 200 people attended right out of the door. So we were very excited. People began to sign up about what can we do to make this happen. We weren't sure whether or not the facility was going to stand, what we were going to do. So at that point, we decided we would have to form the Friends of Cape Wildlife, become our own 501c3 organization to back the Cape Wildlife Center and whatever they needed, be that funding, staffing. And to date, we have about 150 members. We have website, Facebook, lots of social media. We're out there educating the community, and we are fundraising. This year, our commitment to the Cape Wildlife Center is to fundraise $100,000 to help with operational costs and to organize and manage all the volunteers till they get to a capacity where they can take that step over, and to do educational outreach.
Very, very exciting that this group has made such headway in such a short amount of time. We see so many times. This just seems like such a community effort, and to really see that turnout at Cape Cod Community College. Did you think you guys were going to get that much support?
We didn't know what to think. We were hoping we would get that much support. Certainly everybody that I talked to was backing us, but I'm in an animal welfare group, so generally that's where the support would come from. But we had support across the board from people that would come up and were so grateful that there was a place that they could bring an injured or an orphaned animal. What's important to realize is that Cape Wildlife Center not only does care for injured, abandoned, and orphaned animals, but we care for the community in a sense that to find a bunny in your yard that's bleeding and to have absolutely no place to bring that, or find a raccoon that's been hit by a car, and animal control says, I have to euthanize this animal because I don't have any place that can treat it. That's a horrible situation to be in for anybody. Nobody wants to be there. It's very heartwarming to say, I have this, can you take care of it? And we can, or we can end its suffering, one or the other. So people were glad to have that aspect there.
And so heartwarming just to see that community response and see the community really see a need here. And of course, Cape Codders are always very involved.
Absolutely.
Cape Codders are always very involved. That's one thing I've learned since moving here. But you know, very, very exciting. Really, you guys had to fundraise and fundraise and fundraise. Yes. So you're still raising money because this is going to be a struggle for you guys. You're not getting any state or federal funding, so this is important.
Absolutely. So we are now a small community nonprofit, and as you said, we get no state or federal funding to care for the animals that we do. And I just want to say, yesterday we crossed our 200th patient line, which is extremely exciting for us, but it also proves our proof of concept and the need for us to be there.
And that's since March 1st.
And that is since March 1st.
We've only 200 animals since
weeks.
March 1st.
Yep.
Those are just animals that have been brought into us. We field phone calls, many phone calls every day. What do we think a yearly?
So this year we expect to field about 10,000 phone calls. And that is everything from, I see an injured deer in my backyard, to, hey, what's going on with the aquifer underneath my house right now? And what we've really tried to do is expand this beyond just the animal care. That is sort of our central mission, but into the environmental science, into the ecology, into the natural history. And that's truly what animal care is. It is the medical side of things, but you have to understand a little bit about the habitat and where these animals come from in order to accurately care for them.
Wow.
And so by fielding these phone calls and by inviting people in and by caring for the animals, we are really approaching this holistically and giving the public a broad education so that they can turn to their friends and families and constituents and say, listen, I had this experience, here's what I learned, here's what we can do today, here's how we can protect the environment, here's how we can save animals in the future.
Wow. So really, like you said, love that holistic approach and taking a look at things from that perspective. What else does the Cape Wildlife Center do as it's working with the community?
Sure. So let me, can I give you the quick history?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. So the Humane Society of the United States operated our beautiful 4.6 acre facility in Comaquid for about, I think, 8 years. And unfortunately, because as you mentioned, there's no state or federal funding for this, they simply couldn't afford to operate the facility anymore. At which point, they decided they were going to close the doors, and unfortunately, there would be a big hole left in animal care down here on the Cape. And so Karen's group, as we talked about, the Friends of Cape Wildlife, were sort of the first responders to this, along with the Pegasus Foundation, who has generously become our fiscal agent or administrative agent through all of this. They saw the emergency situation and were willing to wrap us into their nonprofit charter for the year, which has been incredible. At which point the New England Wildlife Center, which is a similar organization down in Weymouth, Massachusetts, also saw the gap that was going to be left in animal care, and it would not only leave no place for these injured, sick, orphan animals to go, but there is a significant public health aspect to this too, meaning that the rabies submissions to distempers or any of the zoonotic diseases we see every day in wildlife, there was not a ton of resources to monitor them, and there was not a ton of people that could actually prepare these submissions to go in. So we also find recently that we're being leaned on by animal control, DNR, a few other natural resources folks. We're part of the rabies task force. And so when all these organizations came together, all of the public need became very apparent. We were able to leverage just enough funding to rent this facility for $1 a year.
Wow.
And the property is beautiful, but I do want to stress that we are certainly not out of the woods yet. We have the facility, we have the talent, we have the community buy-in, but we really need the funding to activate this. And we look to the community we serve to help us, and we invite all of them to come by and see what we're up to.
If someone's watching right now and saying, this is such a great organization, I've heard so many good things about the work they do, how can I give back? What are ways that individuals who are watching can help the center?
Sure.
Well, first of all, they can volunteer at the center. I manage the volunteers at Cape Wildlife Center. We just did an orientation last week. Got 40 new volunteers that are coming in that will be trained to be working with direct animal care. That's a small portion of the ways to volunteer. You can volunteer in fundraising, administrative help, events, maintaining our property, fixing cages, just about any talent you have we can use, because we run the facility, we run the animals.
Yeah, you sort of have to do everything. You can't necessarily hire out that IT
That's right.
person. You kind of
Exactly.
are looking for, if someone has IT skills,
Data
Yes.
processing and data entry.
Yeah.
And
they can.
And I should say the most simple and direct way you can help if you're sitting at home right now, go to our website and you can donate right there. You can learn more about us, or frankly, come by and see us. Let us take you through the facility. If you believe in what we're doing, then you can absolutely give us some support, and we will return the favor in kind.
Wonderful. You did mention, too, you have a Facebook page as well as a website. We want to make sure everyone knows about those. How would we find that Facebook page?
Our Facebook page is just Friends of Cape Wildlife.
Friends of Cape Wildlife.
And ours is the Cape Wildlife Center. We are sort of partner organizations in this.
We are. For the next year at least, Friends of Cape Wildlife, our entire mission really is to support the Cape Wildlife Center. After that, our broader mission is to support wildlife on all of Cape Cod, including possibly helping rehabbers at home. One of the things that I do want to mention is education. We may save 2,000 animals this year and see 2,000 animals at the center, but that's a drop in the bucket in the number of wildlife animals on Cape Cod. What's more important is that we're reaching out to schools, we're reaching out to civic groups to teach them how to take care of animals in the wild, how not to affect their habitat, what they can do, so that our hope is that we have decreasing numbers of animals that are coming in because their habitat has not been destroyed. A huge one is rodenticide. Using rat poison. You have rats, you have mice, you get your rat poison, you put it out, you kill them. They run away. The hawk comes down,
Yes.
eats the dead rat, gets poisoned with the rodenticide, and comes to us with rodenticide poisoning, which is a highly toxic problem for most birds and raptors, any animals that are eating the prey.
Okay.
So we want to educate the public about that. We have high school students coming in doing internships with us. We have externs coming in doing internships with us. We work with Riverview and transition schools to have their developmentally disabled clients come and work with us. We have a lot of retired volunteers who have found their niche with something to do. So,
which is so important. It's so important to have all these interactions with the community and really making it a community institution, helping educate our youth here on Cape Cod, providing opportunities for Cape Codders. So important, I think, to handle all of this.
This is our new model. As we said, animal care unfortunately does not pay. What does pay is...
They have no place for wallets.
What does pay is becoming a community hub. If you want people to be engaged and give back and be sort of vessels to disseminate the information they learn, you have to invite them into the process. And as Karen said, our constituency spans the entire community of Cape Cod that we serve. And our hope is that this will sort of morph into one of those community hubs where we can give out space for lectures and do the animal care and educate students and so on and so forth. So as we evolve, we want everyone out there to be involved with us.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for joining me today and telling us all about the Cape Wildlife Center and its new beginnings. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. This is important.
Again, our guest today, Karen Ritchie. She's the co-chair of the Friends of Cape Wildlife. And of course, we have Zach Mertz. He's the executive director of the Cape Wildlife Center.